Methodology for population and housing censuses. The population census provides the benchmark for population counting at local and national levels, as well as characteristics of the population. Nearly every country conducts a population census. If direct enumeration is employed, the population census is usually the largest peacetime exercise that a country will undertake and is designed to touch everyone in the country. In many instances, a housing census is conducted at the same time as the population census. The housing census consists of the counting of all housing stock and their occupants in the territory of the country, together with information on the characteristics of housing. In a housing census, information is collected not only on the housing conditions of the population, but also on components of the housing stock, such as seasonal and secondary dwellings or vacant dwellings. The population and housing census is a national photograph and provides the most complete picture of the living conditions of the population and the housing stock of the country. Viewed over time, these national photographs show how the country has changed. The population census represents one of the pillars of a national statistical system, since it provides a benchmark of the population at both the national and the local level. The population census is the most complete and accurate source of information for many social, demographic, and economic characteristics at small area levels. The population census provides a unique source for developing sample frames for surveys. The population census is vital to the successful operation of the official statistical system and should be conducted on a regular basis. In most countries, it is conducted every 10 years and in some cases at 5-year intervals. For those countries that do not conduct a population census on a regular basis, the overall quality of statistics is seriously affected. Traditionally, the concept behind a population census has been clear and simple. The population census was to directly count all individuals and their characteristics through the completion of census forms. This information was to be collected in the field at the same time across the whole country. Although the concept is relatively straightforward, conducting a successful traditional census has proved to be anything but. Traditional censuses are based on the features of individual enumeration, simultaneity, universality, and defined periodicity. Individual enumeration means that information about each person in the household is recorded separately. This allows cross-classification of the various characteristics. Simultaneity requires data to refer to a well-defined and unique reference period. Universality means that data should be provided for all persons within a precisely defined territory of the country. Having defined periodicity means that a census will be taken at a regular interval with comparable information provided in a fixed sequence. Census data should be provided at a minimum frequency of 10 years. The traditional census, although simple in concept, has always been difficult to conduct successfully. Ever more complicated living arrangements, increasing population densities in many countries, and reluctance to participate in information collections have greatly magnified the difficulty. Meanwhile, countries continue to face pressure to expand the range of existing data, produce data more frequently, and reduce the cost, including the smoothing of expenditure over time. This has caused many countries to consider departures from the traditional census methodology. However, many countries still use the traditional method. It is important to remember that whatever method is used, users expect high-quality, reliable information. Information that describes the demographic changes and adaptations of a country and that can be used by the public and decision-makers. We will now have a look at how countries in the ECE region conduct population censuses. The ECE region includes the countries of Europe, North America, Central Asia and Israel. This chart presents data on the census methods adopted in countries in the ECE region in the 2000 round and on plans for the 2010 round, based on information collected by UNECE. In the 2000 census round, 35 countries in the ECE region, that is 80% of the total, conducted a traditional census. Only 9 countries used register data exclusively or in combination with other surveys. According to the current plans for the 2010 census round, the number of countries using register data is expected to double from 9 to 18, and some new methodological approaches will be adopted, like the rolling census or the traditional census with yearly updates. The number of countries conducting a traditional census is declining significantly from 35 in 2000 to 24 in 2010, but this remains the most common methodology in the region. Let's now talk about the different methodologies that some of the countries in the ECE region currently use for the 2010 census. The traditional method relies on collecting the characteristics for each person at the time that person is counted. Information is recorded by census forms completed by respondents or by the enumerator. The traditional method takes place in the field and, while it provides the most complete picture of the country, it can be costly and difficult to conduct. One of the earliest departures from this method was to use a long-form short form. The short form is intended for universal coverage. It asks only basic questions such as location, sex, age, and household membership. The long form is based on a sample of the population and is used to collect extensive information on the characteristics of the population. This has the advantage of increasing the range of content while reducing overall respondent burden and the cost of data processing. However, because a census, the short form, and a survey, long form, are being operated simultaneously, this method can complicate field operations. Moreover, since the estimates of the characteristics of the population are based on a sample, there will be a reduction in the amount of information produced for small geographic areas. Some countries have a history of using administrative registers to simultaneously enumerate their people rather than through field enumeration. For this approach to be successful, it is necessary to have public and legislative support for the use of population registers. This approach places fewer burdens on individuals, and once high-quality registers are established, it is cheaper than a full field enumeration. Data is usually available from them every year. The characteristics to be collected are limited to those on the register, and the quality of the data produced is dependent on the coverage and quality of the registers themselves. Statistical agencies, however, can combine data from different registers to increase quality and derive new variables. Statistical agencies are also dependent on register authorities, but in general there is good cooperation and the statistical agency has some influence. Establishing and maintaining a high-quality, register-based statistical system requires significant resources and societal will. However, once such a system is set up, it can be used to produce efficiently a wide range of statistics in addition to census data. Some of the characteristics that are of interest for individuals and households may not be found in existing registers. To overcome this weakness with a register-based census, some countries have conducted censuses that simultaneously enumerate the population through registers and also collect characteristics information on all individuals in the field. This enables variables not available in registers to be obtained in the field, as well as providing information about the accuracy of the population count based on registers. It is expected that improved precision will occur. However, this method can be complex to apply and, if compared with relying on registers alone, is more expensive and also increases the burden on the public. But compared to the traditional census, it can be more efficient in field operations. An alternative to the previous approach consists in using data from registers in combination with results from existing household surveys. Registers are used to provide a total enumeration of all the people. Existing surveys are used to provide characteristics about individuals. In this approach, households are not required to provide information for the census. A necessary prerequisite for implementation of this approach is to link information from different sources at the unit record level. This method is less costly than others as it does not require a specific field phase for the census. This approach also ensures that census results will be consistent with survey results for common variables and respondent burden will be reduced. However, the process to successfully link information from different surveys and registers on individuals is complex, as is the ability to produce information on households. Moreover, as is the case for the complete register-based approach, public awareness of the census results may be difficult as there is no longer a census event on which the public may focus its attention.
Your cooperation means that we can better plan for the future and ensure we will all be part of the bigger picture.
A variation on the method of enumeration from a register and linkage to established surveys is to use ad hoc sample surveys instead of established surveys. These ad hoc surveys can be used to evaluate the accuracy of the register addresses and collect the traditional long-form census data. This has the advantage of testing the accuracy of the population register and consequently being able to adjust the population counts derived from it. It is possible that coverage bias may occur when populations are adjusted from the survey results. Another method is the traditional enumeration with yearly updates of characteristics on a sample basis. This consists of conducting a full enumeration of the population and also includes the collection of basic demographic data every 10 years. In the intercensal period, including the census year, a large household sample survey is conducted every year. This provides detailed demographic, social and economic data about households. An approach like this has the advantages of both introducing significant efficiencies into the census short form, which can improve its accuracy and coverage, and of providing household data on a yearly basis instead of every 10 years. The approach requires a very large household survey. Despite the size of the survey, for some small areas there may be insufficient information in each single year to produce estimates. Therefore, information for small areas must be accumulated over the years. As a result, yearly information for small jurisdictions is released only in the form of moving averages. The concept of moving averages may be difficult to explain to public officials as well as to the general public. A further variation of the traditional census method is to conduct a census by means of a cumulative continuous survey over a period of time rather than on a particular day. This approach is also known as rolling census. In France, where this method was developed first, a 5-year cycle was adopted, and different approaches are used for small municipalities, a population under 10,000, and larger municipalities. Small municipalities are divided into 5 groups, and a full census is conducted each year in one of the groups. In large municipalities, a sample survey covering 8% of dwellings is conducted each year. At the end of the 5-year cycle, 70% of the total population is covered. This is enough to guarantee robust information at the level of municipality and neighbourhoods. Census results are based on rolling averages calculated over the 5-year cycle and are updated yearly. This method provides for improved frequency of the data and spreads out the financial and human burden associated with the census. On the negative side, the method can be complex to implement. Complications may arise from the movements of persons across municipalities over the various years. These movements could lead to double counting or to missing certain individuals. The methods of conducting censuses are changing, and there is no longer a single uniformly applied method. It is important that each country clearly defines the method it uses. Every method has its strengths and its weaknesses, and there is no perfect solution. Each country needs to decide what will work best for them and what level of imperfection they are willing to tolerate. The most important issue is the quality of the output and the fitness for the uses to which it is put. In focusing on output, important issues to consider include: what are user needs? How does the census fit with the national statistical system? What census design is the most effective method to produce required output that is consistent with the essential features of population censuses? On a final note, remember that if the census is working well, then don't change it for the sake of change alone. Any changes need to be based on thorough evaluations from prior censuses, lessons learned from other countries' experiences, and the results of careful testing.